Welcome to Bunnyfish Crafts. I'm your host Heather, known as Bunnyfish on Ravelry and Flirk. This is episode 2, Knitting Penance No More. Grab some sticks and string and come sit with me. Let's just jump right in. I think you can gather from the title of this episode what my first finished object is. Bum-ba-ba! That shawl that I was working on, the double knit shawl. So, you remember how it was supposed to be 6 feet by 18 inches? It is, and I decided to make a scarf because I didn't want to deal with the shawl. It's about 4.5 inches by 10 feet. 10 feet! I don't know how that happened. I did a gauge swatch and everything, and I don't do gauge swatches. But I did, and it's now 10 feet. This was made on US size 4 3.5 millimeter needles using Knit Pick Stroll in black and Premier Serenity sock weight yarn in indigo. And I am so glad it is done. So glad. And I've already found someone to take it. While we were at Thanksgiving, I was working on it, like I said I was going to, and Steve's step-aunt wears scarves, and I told her she could have it, and she took me up on my offer. So, how exciting. This will be out of my life soon. I'm going to give it to his stepmom on the Christmas party on December 15th, and then I won't have to deal with it. Before I get into my other finished objects, you might be wondering what I'm doing with all of this leftover yarn from the shawl, because I bought 8 skeins of each, and this used just under 2 of the indigo and just over 2 of the black. Well, I'm going to use these to make thigh highs for Amanda. I told you that she was going to pay me to make her thigh highs, and she is actually just reimbursing me for this yarn. I told you she was buying the yarn. She's buying this from me, and she supplied the gray. So yay! Now that is out of the way. On to better finished objects. Ones that I'm really, really excited about. Not just because they're done, but because they exist in the world. I'll be right back. I forgot it on the clothesline. Okay, I'm back, and I have Steve's DNA socks. Oh, let's see. Can you... Oh yeah, there you go. If I bend my hand like that, you can see the pattern on it really well. So this was made using the DNA scarf pattern by June Ishiro, who is Two Sheep on Ravelry. And I'm so proud of these. I got them done on Tuesday last week. So they were ready for Thanksgiving, and Steve wore them and got lots of compliments. And then he got a hole. Got a hole in it. Wore them for 3 hours and got a hole in the sock. It's you can tell, maybe, see that yarn? It's definitely snagged his foot on something. I mean, it would have been really, really weird if it had worn through, but he definitely snagged his foot on something. So, I learned how to darn a sock. That orange blobby, yep, that's my darning. It's used from this yarn. You can see the orange in it. The tutorial I was reading recommended using the same color, so I thought about snipping off brown. But the orange was right at the end, and I kind of wanted to see what I was doing this first go-round. From the outside, you can't even really tell that it's there. If you look, you can tell that there's an orange blob. But if you don't look, you can't even tell. So, those are Steve's socks, and I'm actually really excited that these exist. They still remind me of Thanksgiving. The Lion Brand Sockies in colorway Toffee, which is this really lovely brown with orange, and yellow. I hope the lighting's better this week. I tried to move it around a little, but I can't tell. I won't be able to tell until I get this on my computer and edit. Those were made on a size 2.75 millimeter needle, both double points and circs. I also finished that third bed for my Nerd Wars dissertation. Nerd Wars is a game on Ravelry. This was made using a size J crochet hook, which is 6 millimeters. The pattern's roughly adapted from One Skein Pet Beds by Chris Porter, and the yarn came from a baby blanket that I salvaged after it got a hole in the corner. So yay, third one. Only 2 more to go. I'm really excited that this is out of the way and that I'm where I need to be to finish my dissertation on time. I have to have all 5 pet beds completed and submitted to the game by December 28th, and I'm well on the way for that. I also finished the spinning that I was working on. Where are you going? Okay. So this is that Baby Doll Southdown. It's still wet. I just soaked it this morning. See, it's a brown, like a chocolatey, milk chocolatey brown. And it is 57 yards. It's a 3-ply. And 9 to 10 wraps per inch. It's pretty, let's see, it's pretty consistent throughout, which I'm really proud of. And I made this for a Nerd Wars challenge. It's the technical challenge, and it's called You Made That Using What? I thought spinning would be great because my spinning setup is not... I only have that one spindle. That's really nice. The one that I showed you last week, the blue from Thomas Creations. And the rest of it is stuff that I've made. I made myself a Turkish spindle using 3 bamboo skewers and some string. I have this drop spindle, which today, this is why I can't have nice things, because I'm a mom. So today I was going to start spinning some more, and I set my spindle down on the table to grab the Baby Doll Southdown so I could start working on that again. And Mara knocked it on the floor and stepped on it. Yeah, she snapped it. I'm sure it will work fine. It's just a CD spindle with a little cup hook and some rubber washers and a dowel. I can easily replace the dowel and it'll be just fine. But I'm going to work with what I have right now and not worry about getting a dowel until, you know, next time I'm out, maybe this weekend, if I think about it. If this works fine, I'm probably just going to make do with this. I was kind of thinking that the rod was a little bit long for me anyway, so blessing in disguise maybe. I have that, I have the Turkish, and then I made myself a Lazy Kate using a 12-pack soda can, 12-pack cardboard box, and 3 bamboo skewers with toilet paper tubes as the bobbins, and my Nitty Nutty is a paper towel tube with 2 bamboo skewers. Someday, I would like to have nice spinning equipment. I would like to have a wheel, really. But for now, this stuff is completely functional. It's not the prettiest, but it's completely functional. If the kids play with it, not a big deal. It can all be easily replaced, except that Thomas Creations spindle, which I keep on the top shelf of my crafty bookshelf. Here, I'll show you. See that bookshelf? Let's see, I think you can see it. Crafty bookshelf. I keep it on the top shelf where they can't reach. It's pretty much the only place that they can't reach in the house. I finished one more thing. You remember how I said last week that I was not going to cast on anything new? I did really, really, really well until Saturday night. And then tragedy happened. But I'll tell you about that in a little while when I get to works in progress. In the meantime, I'm going to show you my last finished object. I made myself the arm warmers using the yarn that my sister sent me. Let me get the second one on. Ta-da! This is the pattern from Red Berry Crochet, that crochet pattern that I say that I use all the time for arm warmers. I do, because I know the pattern. I don't have to think about it, and this yarn is really pretty. Let's see, I think you can see the greens and the blues, and it's really, really soft, and the texture is really nice, and then it's got these little, like, fabric, let's see, can you see that? Little fabric bump all through it, and it's really interesting. It is Sensations Rosario Multi in the colorway green, and I never would have bought this for myself because I just don't buy a lot of novelty type yarn, but I really, really like it, especially for my arm warmers. I'm not saying I would buy it again just because I don't buy novelty yarn, but I will definitely use it again if someone, like my sister, offers it to me, or, you know, when my arm warmers die or get lost and I need to replace them, I might go ahead and buy some more of this, because it feels really, really nice. It's nice and warm, and it's really, really soft. Also, it's green and beautiful. And that is my last finished object. I know, I had a ton again this week. Not normal, but it is the end of the month, so there is that. Don't worry, we'll get to the point where I don't have a ton of finished objects. It'll happen. Probably after Nerd Wars ends. So, now I'm going to go to Rachel's Afghan. It's somewhere between finished objects and work in progress, I feel, because the Afghan itself is a work in progress, but there are some finished objects to go into it. These were the September 6-inch squares for the 2012 Block a Month Crochet Along group on Ravelry, and the pattern is Ribbed Square by Jittery, Jittery, The hook that is called for is a USJ 6mm, which is what I used. You can see that I didn't extend the ribs all the way out. That was kind of laziness, I worked on them really, really late at night. They were the last things that I worked on one day, and I thought about ripping them out and doing it as the pattern said. This one I extended them further, but still not all the way out. But then I decided that I like them how they are, so I just left them, because she's not going to know the difference, and they're still going to look really nice in an Afghan. I do that a lot. I call them design features. A lot of people call them design features, where you mess up and you're like, it'll be okay. Because it really will be. I'm sure she's going to like it. And then I finished these, which will square out once they are in the Afghan, once it's all put together. These were the November 6-inch squares. The pattern is called Free Smooth Foxes Diagonal Box Stitch Square 6x6 by Donna Mason Zvara. And they use a hook size H, which is 5mm. And then this square is a special square. It's a snowflake square. Not actually a snowflake, but you know, unique and special. This was the August 12-inch square. It's the Crocodile Flower by Joyce Lewis. This was the square that I was working on last week. And you're supposed to use a US size F, which is 3.75 millimeter, and I did for, let's see, this, and the base under this red petal, and the base under this black petal, and then I set the project down for an hour, and I came back to it, and because I had been using my size H hook so often, I used it for these, and I used it for these squares, and I used it for other things. Because I was using it so much, I just picked up the H, which is 5 millimeters. So it's a little bit wonky. But I actually kind of like the effect because it makes it even more 3D, makes the flower petals pop even more. So it'll look good in the Afghan. You see, I just let things go. I could have ripped it all out, but I'm not that OCD. It'll look fine, it'll be fine. And the recipient is not a crafter, so she won't know why things look the way they do. She'll just love it. I know she will. I'm sorry, my glasses are driving me crazy. Mara broke my glasses, and I haven't been able to go get my eyes checked out because we just bought a new car. An SUV, a family vehicle. Not a big deal, we can totally afford it, but with the down payment, because it's so much more than just a regular car payment, with the down payment, we can't get my eyes checked until we get the next paycheck this week. So probably in the next 2 or so weeks, I'll probably get my eyes checked and then get a new pair of glasses. Or I might just keep forgetting because I really only notice when I keep looking down at things when my glasses slip. I'm really good at forgetting things when they're not, you know, in my face. On my face, not the same as in my face. And then I finished one more square. I did so good. I did 6 squares. I said that I should be doing 1 a day, so it should have been 7, but I did 6. I'm pretty proud of myself. Granted, 4 of them were small squares, so that made it easier, but I also think that this is one of the most complex squares in the Afghan, so hopefully the other ones, the other 12-inch squares, go pretty smoothly, like this one did. Isn't that beautiful? I love this square. It was the November 12-inch square, one of them, the Shining Star square 10-inch by Amelia Beebe, US hook size H, surprise surprise, 5 millimeter. And on top of finishing those squares, I also attached one whole row of squares together. So yay! Still have to get it all done by the 22nd, and that's kind of scary and crazy, but I think it's doable. I just need to keep plowing through them like I have been this past week. The yarn that I used for all of them is Vanna's Choice Lion brand yarns. Vanna's Choice in the colorways Scarlet and Black, and Red Heart Super Saver in the colorway Bright Yellow. Now on to my favorite project. I told you that I wasn't going to show you the blanket every week, and I'm not. But I am going to show you all of the yarns that I used. So, this is Scholler and Stahl Fortissima Mexico Cotton Stretch in the colorway Batik Color. B-A-T-I-K color. And then Red Heart Heart and Soul in Toasted Almond. Peyton's Croy Sock FX in the colorway Camo Colors. Yarn Bee. I know, look at how much is left. That's 1 square, maybe 2. Yarn Bee Walkaway in the colorway Tango, Lion Brand Sock Ease in Toffee. I picked up the bag. Serenity Sock Weight in Chili and Indigo. I love this blanket. You'll be seeing more of it, of course, as I go on with it. Sorry, trying to put things away. So in another couple of weeks, you'll see it again once I hit that 5% mark. And that blanket is based off of the Sock Yarn Blanket by Shelley King, Heathen Housewife, and it's made on a US 2.75 millimeter needle. On to works in progress and the story of tragedy. Oh, it's caught. Okay, uncaught. These are my sisters' thigh highs. They're not much further along, but they are further. I think I did another 3 rounds on it. I know, barely worth mentioning, but I had every intention of working on these. I really didn't want to start anything new. I was really working really hard not to start anything new. So I finished the shawl and I finished the socks, and that didn't leave me with a lot left from last week, so I was going to work on these. I pulled them out and started to work on them, and then I snapped the needle at the join. This is supposed to go right like that. Yeah, I snapped the needle. It was 7 o'clock at night. I couldn't go out and get a new needle. I really wanted to because I was going to watch a movie with the kids and I was going to work on these socks for that hour and a half and then probably just keep working on it as I watched whatever with Steve or just sat around and talked with Steve. I was going to work on these socks. It was going to happen. I was pumped up. I was excited. And then I broke the needle. Which is when I started this and another project, which you'll see in a minute. But yesterday, I went to Michael's first because I had a coupon, and I was going to pick up the needles there. They didn't have the size I needed. They had one type of size 1 circulars, but the cable was only 16 inches. Not long enough for what I needed them for. So then I went to Joann's, and it was right before my knitting group, and they did have the needles that I needed. But the line to check out was halfway to the back of the store because it's Black Friday to Cyber Monday, that whole weekend of sales and stuff. So I left and I went to knitting. And then on the way home I was like, well, maybe the line's not so bad and I really want to work on these socks. So I went and the line was only 10 people deep, not a big deal. I picked up the new ones and I worked around last night. We have people over on Sundays. Well, we had a person over from Steve's work, and I made dinner and I made dessert and then we entertained, so I didn't really have a lot of time to work on the sock. And then this morning I did another round, and then there was cleaning and child taken care of. But these socks will get a lot more done in the next few days before December starts. So those are Amanda's thigh highs. They are on a US size 1 2.25 needle in Serenity Sock Yarn, the colorway Charcoal. And Then I worked on my Nerd Wars dissertation. Started a new one because I finished the old one, and I try to work on this 10 minutes every day. It's the One Skein Pet Bed by Chris Porter is what it's based off of. This is how far I am. I've already done my 10 minutes today. And I'm using Red Heart Super Saver in Navy and Royal. And some random leftover red yarn. I think I've used up 2 small balls already, and then this one. And I have some other yarn, some other red yarn for when this red yarn runs out, and some other fun yarns, but they're not in there yet. So that's my Nerd Wars dissertation update, and it's in this fun little bag that I'm pretty sure came from a dollar store. I got it when I went to my friend's wedding in August. She had those for she had the hotel handout goodie bags, and that was one of the goodie bags for when you checked in. It had like chips and soda and directions and I don't know, something else, water, other things, candy. I don't know. August was a really, really long time ago to remember not such important details, so I don't remember. Sorry. I also started, I know I wasn't going to start things, but I couldn't just work on these mitts because I like them, but I just couldn't work on only these mitts. So I started another goodie bag from that wedding. A little Christmas tree I'm going to send to one of the kids' grandmas. The pattern is Christmas Tree by Helen Free. And this is Red Heart Super Saver in Hunter Green. I'm using size H hook. I told you, that's all I used this week almost. In 5mm. And Gabriel actually strung all these beads. I counted out the number of beads that needed to go on, and then he strung them however he wanted. And I figured that'll be a nice touch for the grandmas to have something that's kind of made by him. He has also, well, he and Mara have both sat in my lap to work on this. They put their little hands around the hook, and I help them crochet, and it's so adorable. I actually have a really cute picture of Mara helping me finish up these mitts that maybe I will put in. And that is all of my works in progress. I only have 4. Next week, expect that to change because later this week, Nerd Wars, the new challenges come out. I'm so excited. So I'm going to show you what I am planning on making and hope to fit into these challenges. I'm going to make the last pair of 7 of socks for my mom using Yarn Bee Walk Away. This yarn I actually bought for my sister and a friend of mine. I bought 4 skeins to make them each a pair of socks. And I only used 2 skeins total to make them socks. So I have these 2 left over. So I decided that they could be the last pair for my mom. Yarn Bee Walk Away, colorway Ballet. It's, let's see if we can get it. It's purple and green and a blue-green with the white nylon cord wrapping through it. And it's really, really stretchy. I think that's nylon anyway. Let's see. Let's make sure. Yes, that's a polyamide cord wrapping around it. it's super stretchy. Let's see if I can... It makes the socks really, really, really stretchy. So I'm probably going to use a US size 2 and just cast on like 10 stitches less than I normally would for my mom's socks, because they're really, really stretchy and I have a lot of holiday crafting to do, and that will make them go really, really fast. Let me show you the pattern that I am going to use. It's from this book, Socks a la carte. My knitting group last year had a holiday party, and there was a game where everybody filled out a survey about themselves, and you had to guess who said what, and the person who got the most right won. And I won, and there were 2 books for the prize. You got to choose one. The other one was scarves and probably scarves and mittens and things. And I make scarves and mittens, but I'm not really into it, not like I am socks. So I picked the sock book. And this book is really cool because it's got these pages that you can flip to choose different sections of the sock. The only one that's important that I'm showing you is this section right here. I asked my mom early in the year which... I brought 2 sock books, this one and another, and I asked her to go through and pick patterns. I don't make a lot of vanilla socks. I've only made 2 pair because they're really, really easy and I want to challenge myself. I'm sure someday I will love just vanilla socks, but right now I still want to challenge myself to try different things that I haven't done before. So I asked her to pick out patterns, and she picked out 1 from each book. I'm making her 7 pairs of socks, and she only picked out 2 patterns. I already made the one, and then the second one, pocket in her sock. I don't know why she wants a pocket in her sock. I don't actually think that I have a use for a pocket in a sock, but hey, they're her socks, and I will make her a pocket sock if that is what she wants. I'm also going to make another pair of socks for Steve, my boyfriend, using Lion Brand Sock Ease. This colorway is called Taffy, and it is a really lovely teal with a golden yellow and a darker brown. And I just think it'll be really, really lovely. A cowl for my dad's girlfriend. I made her a hat this round of the tournament. My dad, they stopped by, and he said that she likes hats and scarves. So I made her a hat, and I had this yarn left over. This much. It took less than this for the hat. I'm going to make her a cowl. I don't think this is enough to make a scarf, but it is enough to make a cowl. I do know that I'm going to be using the same size needle, which is 4.5 millimeter. These are my interchangeables. So I'll be making that for her. And I'm going to be making another Christmas tree using Red Heart Super Saver. This is the colorway Patty Green. And Gabriel has already strung the beads for that one too. That will be for another one of his grandmothers. Also, I'm planning on starting a sewing project because I have a lot of sewing to do. I really need to get on it. I'm going to take these fabrics. These are all old t-shirts of mine that have, you know, paint on a part of them, or a bleach stain, or a hole in the hem. You know, little things that make it so you don't want to wear it in public, but a lot of good fabric left. I'm going to cut this up and transform it into a nightgown for my niece. She likes all of those colors, and my sister said that she wanted pajamas for her kids, and I told her that I would be using old fabric for that, so that's how it's going to be. And I'm really excited to start it. I made her a t-shirt for her birthday with a unicorn on it, my niece, and she loved it. She apparently wore it 3 days straight. That is an excellent compliment from a 4-year-old, especially one who gets naked whenever she can. Now on to new thing. I only have one new thing, but it is a big thing, a big new thing. I was at knitting 2 weeks ago, and I was telling Lorraine that I needed to get some yarn for a swap that I'm doing, a shawl. And she said that she had some, I needed sport weight, and she said she had some fingering that I could probably hold double to use for it. And she gave me this. So she gave me this last week, and I crocheted a swatch, and it looked fine, held double. And she is going to dye it because this brown color, it's not a bad brown color, it's nice, but my swap partner prefers dark colors, so like a dark chocolatey color or a red. She's going to try dyeing it red and see what comes out of it, and then once she sees how it dyes up, we'll decide if we're going to dye all of this before I work on it, or if she's going to dye the project after it. And I am trading her for this yarn that she's not interested in, never going to use. I asked her how much she wanted for it, and she said, surprise me, and I said, okay, I think I have the perfect thing. I'm going to give her this. Can you see the gorgeous blues and purples and a reddish and a gold color? This yarn is really, really lovely. Gabriel, in your room. Go. It is nap time, which is why I'm able to record this in mostly one shot. Mara actually took her nap today. Mara has been outgrowing nap time, which makes me really, really, really sad, because I love nap time. Not just because it's quiet and I am able to get things done, but also I rock her to sleep for nap time. And just having her fall asleep and having her be that comfortable and that content to be able to sleep because I'm holding her and rocking her, I don't know how to explain it well, but I think that moms know what I'm talking about. Just the happiness of watching your child fall asleep and be content. It's making me sad that she's outgrowing nap time. Anyway, back to this yarn. It's gorgeous. I love this yarn, and I really, really, really want to keep it. I actually thought for an entire week over whether or not I could part with it. But it's lace weight. It's really, really fine lace. I've only knit one lace shawl. I've only worked with lace weight one time, and it was enjoyable. I liked the product that happened. I liked the process. I liked working with it. But that was almost a year ago. Gabriel, in your room. Thank you. That was almost a year ago. And I could just keep this in my stash forever and just, pet it and look at it. But I have some lace that I pet occasionally that I bought for myself. This came from a woman on Ravelry. She started a group she was destashing in exchange for a 500-word story about yarn. She would send you some yarn. She sent me a lot of yarn, and this is one of the things that she sent me for a story about how I learned how to crochet. I sent her that story. I have a picture of this in the hank, and I'm going to put that up because you can see the colors better in that. You can see how much I like this yarn and don't want to put it down. But I don't make lace things, and Lorraine is always either making socks or shawls, lace shawls. And I caked this at the holiday party that we had, and she said, oh, if you don't want that, I'll take it. You know, just flippant. She didn't expect me to give it to her. And I put it back in my bag, and now I'm going to give it to her in exchange because she liked it, and it's gorgeous, but it's just going to sit around in my stash for a while because I'm not a shawl person. I am more of a scarf person. So making lace shawls, I would do it for a swap, but I don't really feel the need to make one for myself, and she will love it. And I really appreciate her giving me that yarn so that I don't have to go scour stores trying to find something appropriate. Okay, I'm going to talk about books. I'm going to tell you about the 2 books that I'm reading right now. I am reading Finder by Emma Bull. I have a little under 40 pages to go, and this book is fantastic. I've only read one other of her books. I read War for the Oaks, and I was actually going to the shelf in the library. I have a huge love affair with the library. But I was going to the shelf to find War for the Oaks so that my boyfriend could read it because he hadn't read it, and they didn't have that, but they did have this. So I grabbed it. It's the story of Orient, and he finds things. He's the finder of this book. If you know what you're looking for and you ask him, hey, where is this? He gets this feeling that he follows to find it. It's like an invisible cord taking him to it. He can't give distance ideas or just tell you where it is. He has to actually physically go. So if your thing is that way, I really enjoy it. It kind of reminds me of the grittiness of S.E. Hinton's The Outsiders. It takes place in Border Town, which used to be just a normal city, but then Fairy, like the land of Fairy, started leaking into it. So now fairies live there, and people live there. And there are some parts about like race relations and how people idealize places before they go there, because humans run away to Border Town thinking that life is going to be better, and elves run away to Border Town thinking that life is going to be better. It's a really, really, really good book, and I highly recommend it. Stop by your local library, pick it up, or buy it if you can, if you're not, on a budget for books and read a ton of books. The second book that I'm reading right now is The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. I'm only 50 pages into it, but holy cow, did the first chapter pull me in. The first 3 pages go something like this. There is a man with a knife, and he goes into a house, and he kills 3 people. A mother, a father, and then a girl. And then he goes up to find the baby. The baby's room is the highest room in the house. He's going to kill the baby. But the baby's not there. The baby has crawled out of his crib and gone down the stairs, out of the house, and into a graveyard. And then it goes from there. This boy is adopted by the ghosts there, and his name is Nobody Owens, because they have an argument over what to name him, and it's decided that they're going to go with Nobody, and he goes by Bod. And I really, really can't wait to finish this book. I haven't read any of his books, but I do have 4 of them sitting on my shelf, and I have seen Coraline, which was based on a book that he wrote, and I enjoyed Coraline, so I'm thinking after I finish this book, I'm probably going to pick up some of those other books. This is a young adult novel, which is probably a good place to start if you haven't read Neil Gaiman, to get a feel for his writing, and then go to his adult novels. But that's what I'm reading, and I'm really, really excited about it. I almost forgot. I actually picked up the camera and was about to put it away, and then I looked down at my notes and I was like, oh yeah, 3 favorite things. So this week, I want to talk about podcasts. The whole reason why I'm sitting here recording this, hoping that Blip will host my web series so that you can watch it, I watch some knitting podcasts. And this is going to be part 1 of podcasts because I'm only doing 3, and that's not enough to tell you about all the awesome podcasts. It's going to be part 1 of 2. The first one that I want to talk about is Knittables. And Diane is the host. She has 2 bulldogs, a bird, and a cat who make appearances on her show. She talks about her spinning and knitting, and she has crochet-alongs frequently and spin-alongs, and she talks about charity, and it's really, really entertaining. Her podcast usually runs between 50 minutes and just over an hour. It's worth the time, though. It's very, very entertaining. She's really, really energetic, and I love her podcast. I love her show. The second one I want to talk about is Knit Bites. It's hosted by Becca, and she talks about her knitting and her spinning. She even talked about sewing once, and she's talked about cross-stitch a couple times. But her big other feature, other than crafting, is that she talks about video games. Every week she has a featured pattern that is somehow video game related, and then she talks about a video game. Sometimes it's what she's playing, sometimes it's something from her childhood. It's just really, really interesting. It's a nice meshing of 2 of my hobbies. And the third one that I'm going to tell you about is called Traveling Sock Knitter, and it's hosted by Hannah and co-hosted by her cat Lilith, who makes appearances every few episodes, and she talks about her knitting and sometimes crocheting, and she is a teacher, so frequently she talks about her classes. She talks about using the iPad across media, and she talks about books, and she's where I got the favorite things idea from. So if you're looking for podcasts and you haven't seen those 3, go check them out. They're worth your time. They're fantastic. I hope you've enjoyed this week's show, and I hope that you got something really cool done with your sticks and string. And I'll see you next week.